first what this will look like finish, right? So we're going for the teal and orange, hence the greenish tint of the teal, greenish bluish tint, you know, and then of course a little bit of exaggerated skin tone by going with more orangey look for it, okay? And this is a simple setup. A lot of people do their stuff differently for teaching purpose. I just kind of go down like this because this is like the first and then progression of things going all the way to the right on the nodes like this, okay? So just to kind of show you, and I'll break this down on each node, okay? So we have our primary here, all right? So if I take out the primary, that would be Command D. That's what it looks like basically without that, okay? It's kind of turning those on and off, and they do one special thing, okay? So the primary, this is where we fix our kind of broadcast safe. We want to make sure we have white balance. We want to make sure we don't go past 0. We don't go past 1023, okay? And then we are even putting contrast here. So it kind of gives us kind of like what that look we're going for without adding any color styling to it, okay? You could definitely put contrast on some other node, but keep in mind the node, the more you add here, the slower your computer will operate, okay? So in Davinci Resolve, it's super important in that you can kind of work smart with your node, and you don't overdo it. You don't add certain things that would just kind of slow it down. But then again, Davinci is designed so that you're supposed to have all that power to be able to pull all this thing off. So they never expected you to be running a not so slow computer because you won't be able to do all the stuff, okay? So that's one of the disadvantage and advantage of Davinci. It's not very low spec friendly, okay? And then the background right here is basically what I'm doing is that in Davinci, the number on the nodes, you'll see it, right? So one takes over. It's not like kind of like your regular layer where everything is happening at the same time because it's just all layer, right? Up and down, kind of like a layer. But in Davinci, the last one affects the previous one. So you need to be smart about which one you put first, all right? So you can see here, everything kind of went one at a time, but this skin tone right here, it's below the background. You see it? This is a parallel node. And then here is to bring back the skin tone, basically. Here's to give it that final film look, which is desaturating shadow. And finally, a offset control or global control. It's the one last node that we have to quickly fine-tune our look, okay? So I'll explain all this in crazy detail, but this is a minimum setup, okay? Your typical node setup would probably be, you know, double this for minimum stuff, but we don't want to overload you with too much information today, okay? So it's kind of like minimum, what we can get away with, okay? So let's start here. I'm going to delete all this, and then we're going to go and I'm going to teach you how to put those names and whatnot too. So, all right, so I'm just going to do is delete all this, select and delete them, okay? And we're going to go to color, node, add serial node. All right, so by default, this is how it is. You get one to begin with, okay? So let's talk about the image right here. We have a lot of potential problems here because look at the skin tone. It just simply matches. It just matches the background right there. You see it? There's a lot of it that just almost the same, okay? And it's there's a lot of reds, and you know, all these things kind of gets pulled together if you just pick the skin tone. So, all right, so let's do our primary. So first thing is we want to name this as our primary, right? So you right click and then you do node label, By clicking that, then you can start typing. I mean, if you notice, there's a cursor that's kind of blinking right there. So primary, or you can call it primaries, you know, if you're gonna go add node below it that would affect it. So I'm just gonna go primary grade. So I'm just gonna press enter to kind of confirm that. So, all right. In the free version of Davinci, it doesn't come with noise reduction. So those are one of the things that makes you wanna buy the full version of Davinci, okay? What you usually typically do is you want to reduce the noise or eliminate the noise because it affects the detailing of your skin or parts of your image, okay? I don't know if you notice when you were editing Citizen Chain is that there's a lot of this. It's a little bit noisy. It's kind of like good noise though. It's not like the blocky, ugly one, but you want to eliminate that, okay? And usually you do that in the first node, well, you know, so that then it affects, you know, going forward without the noise, you can easily fix things, okay? So that's one thing to consider. Why would you buy the $300 version of Davinci? It's worth it just for noise reduction. And they're so smart, they took it away so that you guys will pay for it. Okay, so, all right, anyway, primary right here. What we want to do is looking at our primary wheel over here at the very bottom. I don't know if you can see it. It looks like an eyedropper, okay? There's also an A button right here, which is auto balance. So this is one way to get a generic look, okay? If you want to join the millions of video footage that all look the same, this is what you click. All right, you see see what happened? All right, so you get a decent look right away. Okay, except, let's say you're not getting paid for this. This is your neighbor's daughter's babysitter's wedding video that they pass it to you, but you hate doing it. Yeah, that's the A button right there. Okay. So, all right, but if it's not, then yeah. So I'm gonna click undo. We don't want to do that. We want to do this manually, all right? But let's get a white balance at least, all right? So I'm gonna click on this eyedropper right here, and then the cursor looks like an eyedropper already, but watch the little droplet. It'll be added to it if you're using it for white balance. So I'm gonna grab it. So it's basically asking, hey, where's white? I could say that this might be white, but it could also be kind of off-white because it got, you know, grease and all that stuff, or, you know, this guy didn't take care of it, or, but I'm also going to say, hey, that might be white right there. It's like white plastic, or that white piece of label right there. So I'm going to click that. And as you can see, you brought back some skin tone right here. It shifted the color a bit, okay? You can tell this from the vector scope. And after you click that, and of course you can do that as many times as you want, because if you happen to click the wrong one, okay, and you can just do it again. Now it's just defaulting to this eyedropper. This is the qualifier, because in Davinci, most likely you will use the qualifier to select things. But if you don't want this annoying eyedropper to be there all the time, it's down here. You click that down, you can just turn that off. I want that on all the time because it's the next thing I'm going to use when I'm working. So I would just want it always on. Regardless, you click anything, it doesn't really affect anything until you do something with that node. Okay, so all we did is just white balance right there. Next, we're in primary wheels, and each wheel would have a reset button. Okay, and then there's the global reset. So this one will reset everything on this node. You can also right-click the node and reset node grade if you don't want to click that button. Okay, so on primary wheel, we have bars also. And we have our log wheels, all right? So let's not confuse you guys. Let's just stick with primary wheels for now, okay? So the primary wheels would have your lift, gamma, gain, and offset. So think of this as shadow, midtone, highlights, and then global. So global meaning if I change something here, the whole image will change, all right? But if you're using just lift, then you're just specifically adjusting what's supposed to be the shadow area. Gamma would be the midtone. Gain would be whatever, what's supposed to be highlights or whites, okay? So what we want is on our waveform, so make sure you click your waveform, I mean your scope, sorry, and then change your scopes to whichever units you want to use. Histogram, we have all sorts of this, and we're going to go to waveform. You can also change your waveform so that you only see it in luminance or on the Y, it's no color information, okay? So we just want all this information to basically, all our lift to be on 0. You don't want to crush it because this is when you crush it, okay? Let me show you. It gets compressed, you see it? Right there, you go too much. Okay, so you want it just right there. And then you want gain on 1023, okay? Then the gamma here becomes kind of user-defined. If you want to brighten this up a bit, so I want to, let's say, move some of this waveform a little bit higher, I can do that with my midtone. But as you can see, it lifted the lift also. I got to dial that down a bit. And then if this went up by moving the midtone or gamma or my gain right here, then I can tone that down. It looks like it did anything, so let's kind of move that a little bit. All right, so we just need contrast and we're almost done with this. The keyboard shortcut to temporarily turn off one node is Command D. Command D, and if you're on Windows, that will be Control D. That's before and after, okay? So right away, you can tell that there's a huge difference already, okay? And then if you want to turn off all the nodes, it is Shift and D. Shift D for disable, right? If I do Shift D right now, you'll get confused. It kind of looks like, hey, you just did a Command D there. Yeah, of course, because there's no other nodes. It turns off everything, and that's everything right now. So we got, okay? All right, so at the primary wheels down here, you will see a little bit of information, okay? There's also 2 tabs, 1 and then 2. So that means there's more, okay? We have no business going in here for now, okay? Stay away from there, but if you're interested to see what's happening, you see this midtone detail at 0, okay? Watch his face right here. So if I go like so, it gives you sharpness, okay? And then it gives you that dreamy Instagram look. Look at that. So let's say you forgot to put makeup today and you're just like, hey, I don't feel like doing anything for this video. It's my neighbor's cousin's dog walker's wedding. Yeah, go like this, make it all dreamy. Everyone's going to be happy because they couldn't tell if they have wrinkles or they have eyes. So anyway, so I'm just going to put that back to 0. I'm going to back to the first tab, and then let's look at contrast right here. So contrast, as we talked about before, difference between light and darkness, that contrast difference, all right? So we say it's low contrast when it's kind of like this look. Very kind of milky in a way. It's kind of washed out, okay? And then high contrast would have that opposite effect where dark, blacks will be defined and white will be defined. So if I increase my contrast here, I'm gonna kill some of that shadow detail, but it gives it that punch, okay? So we're kind of going for that look right now. So I would say 1.2 maybe. I'm just gonna round that off. I can live with that, okay? I didn't lose too much detail on the shirt right here. I could still see some. All right. And then I could also bring a little bit of saturation back here because we got a little bit of that saturation because of the white balance. It kind of fixed it. So, but I'm going to add a little bit here. 50 is the start. 50 doesn't mean you added 50 saturation. Well, there is 50 right there, but you know, 0 means no saturation, becomes a desaturated monochrome. Okay. So I'll go with, let's say 60. It brings this back right here. If it's too much, I can always dial it down later. Okay. So you can see it's a little too much though because it added all this orange. However, by adding a saturation here, you could easily do our next node, which is, well, not next node, but when we're pulling the skin tone, you can pull it better because you get more of that vibrant color. Okay. So in a way, you can add saturation just to help you key things out, like thick things. Okay. All right, so I got saturation at 60, and it looks like we're kind of done here with our primary. So on to the next one, okay? So the next one, we're gonna change the background, and this is where we're going for that film look, all right, or film style, which is the teal and orange, okay? So I'm gonna go to color, node, add serial node, and it just gets another one right here, okay? So this is the one that we're gonna apply. So I'm gonna undo all this. I just wanna show you what we're gonna do. It's that green teal look. You see it right there? But what's the problem? It also did it on the skin tone, right? So, and it gave us the teal kind of color also to the shadows. You see it? Very unnatural looking. Some people would argue that because they're going to say, hey, that's I love that look. That's the Instagram look. Okay, well, more power to you. That's more like filtering, you know. But for film look, you don't want any of that, right? In film, the shadows are desaturated actually. So we're going to have to actually do that in order to recover from this, okay? But let me complete my setup first for the background and the skin tone, then we're going to make our adjustment. So I'm going to right click here and reset the node, or click that button, okay? So right click again, node label. This is going to be the background, okay? So background meaning we're changing the color of everything, okay? Just for the background, but yeah. Someone is not able to join the meeting. I don't know why. Is that what everyone's having? Let me see.
Yeah, I was at first, but I figured it out.
Okay, you just, is it because I didn't separate the link? It got joined in with the other text?
The link is not like clickable. You have to copy and paste. And then
Okay.
people probably not reading that password they say put in.
Gotcha. So let's take care of that real quick. So
yeah, whenever I get the text message for it, like it says the meeting ID and password twice.
all right. Send that one. All right. So we're good. We're back. So background, okay? And then I'm gonna add a parallel node to this. So it's not serial where it goes one at a time going to the right. So I'm gonna go color, nodes, add a parallel node, and you can see it brings it down here, and there's a connector right here. You guys see this? Okay, so we're gonna call this one our skin tone node label. Right click node label and type in skin tone or just skin. Okay, so we're affecting the skin. All right, so again, this one we get the teal color. Okay, so I'm gonna select that, and I'm gonna go global right here, and then just go. There we go. And get that. There we go. Okay, so it has that very Instagram look to it, right? Because all the shadows got all that spill on that color, which is not what we're going for film look. So we're control that, but that's its job. It's just to add that color right there. So if you want to go with a little bit more cooler look, there you go. You can go to town with this one. Then we get an Instagram tour right there. Okay. So first thing that happens when we do this is that it affected everything. It's a global one, right? So we want to bring back the skin tone. So one could say that you could just do that with your gamma. Yes, you can. However, you're not going to get a quicker effect. You see it? It's like much more distributed. So global is really the easier route right here, and then just control the other effects after. All right, let's say right there. Okay. All right. I'm still getting the same email. Well, it looks like it's going in the. All right, I'll just send the the email later that everything is recorded so they can just participate. Okay, so now we go to our, so we're done with the background. Of course, we can make adjustments to this some more later. Okay, but for now, it did its job. And next one right here, the parallel one, is to salvage the skin. Okay, so here we want to go to our curves. Okay, so this is the first one right here, which is curve. Then we got our qualifier, so on and so forth. So curves basically are defined by this versus something, okay? So what we can do here is color versus color, hue versus hue. So you're basically targeting a color to change the color. So it simply means when it's hue versus hue, if I pick, let's say with my qualifier, hue versus hue, I pick, let's say, that red. Okay, do you see it? It got a point right here. And I'm in hue versus hue. That means I'm selecting that color versus I'm changing that color. So if I go here in the middle one and then pick a different one, you see the red turns to green. So that means I pick a color versus I'm going to change the color. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to click undo. If I go with hue versus saturation, meaning if I select a color, then I can change its saturation. So I pick that red. Now I can desaturate the red. See what happens? All the red, though, gets affected. So that means hue versus saturation. Let me click undo. If I pick the next one, hue versus luminance, meaning brightness. So if I pick a color, then I can change its brightness to be brighter or darker. Okay, so that's what versus means. And last one here is Luma versus saturation. I'm going to pick, let's say, this is how we're actually going to do the next one right here. So I can do desaturate. This is the shadow right here. So this is saturation. So desaturate is going down. And then I can bring back the color. So this is actually what we need to do. And as you can see here, as well, I didn't pick the thing, but that's what we're going to do next. And then finally, we're going to do saturation versus saturation. You pick, you select you saturate or desaturated a saturation. So basically it's just a versus. It's the opposite, okay? So we're going to do this one, we're going to do hue versus saturation. What we want is, we're going to pick the color of the skin by clicking. As you can see, I got the dot. I click the forehead right here, okay? And then we have this up and down point where we want to bring back saturation, all right? So we lost the skin by doing the background here when we did the teal. So I'm going to increase this one right here so we get some skin tone back. All right, it's right there, okay? It's a little bit orangey, but I'm going to go with a little bit more red, basically more blood on that skin right there. Okay, let's take a look at the difference. Command D. Okay, take a look at the face. All right, so we brought it back. The color's back on the skin. All right, so we're almost done here. First, we did our primary. We added serial node to change the background to that greenish teal look. And then we did a parallel node for the background to bring back the skin using hue versus saturation. And then finally, we're going to add another one to get rid of the background effect that was added to the shadow. Film look is there's no saturation on the shadow. It's actually desaturated, okay? So we're going to add another color node, add serial node. All right, so there it is. And we're going to call this one shadow, let's put desat, desaturate that. Desat, not CSAT. There you go. Desaturation, okay? All right, so the job here is just to go with the curve again. We're gonna go Luma versus saturation, okay? And then we're gonna desaturate the entire thing right here. This is shadow and this is highlight, blacks and whites. So we're gonna desaturate the shadow. However, when we do this, everything else in a gradual way, I mean in a linear way, everything gets desaturated. We don't want that. We just want the shadow. So we're gonna add a point here in the middle and we're gonna bring this back, which is the mids. And we're gonna gain all our color back, maybe right here, but watch for the shadow, okay? Might need to move it a little bit here. But watch for the shadow now, they'll be desaturated. So I'm gonna do Command D on this one. What's the difference? Do you guys see the difference? Is it showing on the demo? Anyone?
Yeah, it got a little
Yeah,
darker.
it looked.
All right, so this is without desaturating the shadow. What's the post? You can see it right here more. You see what happened to it? It lost all that kind of glow Instagram look.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's our final film look. Okay, so let's do another recap. Primary, 0s and 100s. Background to get that teal color. Bring back the skin tone. And finally, to get rid of the shadow saturation. And then one last one, we're gonna add another node, another serial node. We're gonna call this one global control. So this is our last kind of simple way to, let's say, you got your client and they go like, I want a little bit more saturation on that skin. I don't want too much of this teal effect and whatnot. So instead of going here and tweaking all this one, you put a global control right here and you go to your primary wheel offset right here. And then you just bring back, let's say you want some reds back in there. And there it is. All right, do you see that saddle difference? So I'm going to do Command D. Do you see it? All right, so maybe tone it down a little bit. But it's that last ditch effort to kind of control the image without having to go through all this just to make that adjustment. All right, so there you go. I got my skin tone back, and let's do our, I don't know if you guys can see, did it go full screen on yours? No, it's not, right?
No.
That's the thing I don't like. It pauses the screen share when you go full screen. But anyway, I'm gonna do Shift D, which will turn off everything. All right, before and after. All right, so that's how you get your film look, folks. But this is using the teal and orange. In a way, it's a classic Hollywood look right now. I don't know how long this this fascination will last, but the most recent popular movie that used this was the Joker.